What I'm about to tell you will not only increase the likelihood of you starting your very own YouTube channel, but whether you'll be successful. Before we can start, there's a couple of prerequisites that keep cropping up in videos which give advice on how to start a YouTube channel. And both of them, well, I just don't agree with them. The majority of YouTubers who make a video on how to start all say that you should not be doing it for the money. And if you don't do it for the money, you are more likely to be successful and the money will just come rolling in. And you too, along your journey, will come to learn this as part of your rite of passage. But by this point, you'll think it's obvious to everybody and you'll forget to pass it on. So today, I'm going to spill the beans and tell the secret. Firstly, let's go through what you think it means and what I thought it meant before I find out what it really meant. At first, it all sounds like this is a moral issue, that if you do it just for monetary gain, the YouTube God himself will come down from the sky and punish you with failure. However, if you do it for the right reasons, you will be rewarded with all the trappings of success, which also means money. But here's the kicker, here's the truth, here's the bit they don't tell you, and this is what it really means. Even if you have the best niche, a large audience interested, limited competition, the best equipment money can buy, and even if you have enough time in your day to make the videos, you still won't be successful. And you won't be able to get the subscribers for the same reason that Dyson is one of the large manufacturers of vacuum cleaners on the entire planet. Yes, that's right, you both in tandem will be producing a finished product that completely sucks. Your videos will be awful, only watched by friends and family, all spurring you on, telling you how much they really enjoyed it. And one day, mark my words, their tune will change. They'll start saying how much they really enjoyed it, and this time they've watched it until the end. You'll be shocked, but finally realize why your stats always took a dive after the first 30 seconds. Your friends were not watching the videos because they were interesting, they were just watching the videos because of you. And they would switch off after the first 30 seconds of crap because they knew that's all they needed to watch to give you that extra view to shut you up and keep you happy. From going through your videos, you're going to find yourself ashamed, embarrassed even, and start unpublishing all the bad ones, leaving you with an archive of all of the videos that you're truly proud of. And it's at that moment, that specific moment, that you're going to start seeing subscribers. And that's only the half of it. You will have been told that the most important decision you will ever make when it comes to your YouTube channel is your niche, as that will define your audience, your CPM. No, it doesn't mean cost per million, it's cost per thousand. And this will determine how much money you make. It's a misunderstanding here that had me waste 6 years of my journey. It took me 6 years to come to terms with what I'm going to be sharing with you now. And a further 6 years from that moment before I finally decided upon my niche. And I'm so happy to have a niche that I truly adore.
Adore le piador.
Most videos will stress that you choose a niche that you are truly passionate in. We've already accepted that it's going to be unlikely we'll be making any money for a considerable period of time. And so it stands to reason that it's going to be our passion that fuels us forward. And it's the niche that will give our channel consistency and a reason for our audience to eventually subscribe. But the problem is, doing something because you're passionate about it and making a video about it is a completely different thing. And making the video itself can take the fun out of it, which is something that I had to learn the hard way. For case in point, let me talk you through part of my journey. My first idea back in 2007 was to create a YouTube channel all about my experience and passion about cars. A bit like a YouTuber version of Top Gear. But that's the point, it was trying to make these videos that I learned that although I loved watching these kind of videos, I absolutely hated making them, as the fun aspect just vanished. The best way to explain it is it's not that much fun going on a Sunday drive if you're the driver. It was the making of the definitive choice of my niche, however, that pushed me to persevere with something that I wasn't happy with. Had I just started making videos for the sake of making videos, did something on cars, decided I didn't like it, and move on to something else, I would have avoided that feeling of failure and it would have become part of the journey. Fortunately for me, fate stepped in the form of the financial crisis. I may have lost my house, but I fixed my YouTube problem. I found myself in a different country, no longer had the opportunity or the resources at my fingertips to make videos on cars, but I found myself traveling. Traveling was something that I was always passionate about, something I had wanted to do my entire life, but I sacrificed it in order to be able to get married. Now all of a sudden, I was single and in a position to make travel videos. I wanted to make something in a similar format to Wish You Were Here. But single? I'm glad you're not. Now I could see straight away how much better my videos were. It was obvious to me as an avid photographer that my first videos were set up like a photo shoot. You could literally see the framing and the composition. It looked ready for someone to take a photograph rather than ready to video someone where the camera is pointing at their face and their expression, ready to flip in and out of B-roll to accentuate the story. I could see the quality of the recording and the quality of editing was just as important as the content itself. And to be able to create great video with good editing takes experience and practice. And that's why it's important for you to start shooting as soon as possible. And you can work out your niche as you go along. Now don't get me wrong, I enjoyed making videos on traveling, of course I did. But all of my videos on traveling all of the time, nah, that just takes the fun out of it. I was not prepared to run around with all of this equipment and turn what was supposed to be an opportunity of a lifetime into full-time work. I knew I was not happy with my niche. I knew I needed more time to practice my style, which is still a work in progress to this day. But I had another problem, and since it's been resolved, I doubt you're going to believe I ever had it. In actual fact, the only reason why I mentioned it is because you're probably going through this yourself. I just want you to know this is definitely something you're going to be able to push yourself through and resolve it. Just like most of my customers, I was shy in front of the camera. But it was an easy issue to fix with my customers. I would just outright lie. Some of my customers, they would just plow through it and everything was perfect. However, a lot of customers, that was not the case. And I could literally see the blood drain from behind their eyes as their voice starts to wobble and they got so dry in the mouth they might as well have been eating Weetabix without the milk. Yes, I've done that. And so what I would do is I would switch the camera off. I say, hey, come on, calm down. I understand you're nervous. Let's just do a dry run without the camera on. And when you feel a bit more relaxed and you're ready, we'll go for the real thing. So now, completely relaxed, the camera is off, we go through the motions, crack a few jokes, and they're really comfortable. And once we've gone through the entire process and they feel better, they will usually end up saying, okay, I'm ready, click on record. And I say, actually, the camera's been on all the time, we've finished. But there was no one around to do that for me. And of course, even if there was, it wouldn't work because I know the trick. So in this case, I had to fix it for real. But I was still in denial, and to bring this to the fore, I had to ask myself the obvious question, why am I not doing this? And my excuses looking back were absolutely ridiculous. Number one, I haven't shaved. Number two, oh, I need a haircut. Number three, oh, I've still got my house clothes on. Number four, oh, I'm not ready. I need to prepare. Everything about this problem made no sense whatsoever. In a previous life, it was my job to go around the southwest of England giving talks on e-commerce in front of 200 to 300 people. And I can't make a video that at the most is going to be watched by 4 at a time. So I created my 90-day video challenge. If I hadn't shaved, tough. The video's going ahead. If I needed a haircut, we're going ahead. It's your stupid fault for not getting it cut yesterday. I'm not wearing the right clothes? No problem. I'll just have a video with me wearing the wrong clothes. I need more time to prepare? Sod it. You're going to make it up as you go along. And it worked. You see, when forced to push yourself through problems as if they are not there, it is human nature to actually solve them as we go along. One time I hadn't shaved, I ended up making the video whilst I was shaving. I needed a haircut. I actually made the video whilst I was walking to the salon. I had the wrong clothes on, I just put on a nice t-shirt, and to this day nobody knows I made the entire video with no trousers on. And when I needed more time to prepare, I made an entire video on how to get better organized. I turned every single problem into a solution for something else, and this is something you can do. It was the staring into the lens that made me feel watched by millions of strangers that were just not there, that I needed to solve. And it was the actual doing it, going through the process, where I got to realize that the audience was actually just me. I was the only one who got to watch it. I was the only one who got to edit it. I was the only one who got to decide whether I was okay with it and ready for it to be uploaded. Once I realized I had so much control, that's when the negative feelings dissipated. After the first 10 videos, I got out of my 90-day video challenge everything that I ever wanted from it. I could have actually stopped there. But since I didn't have my niche yet, and I was actually enjoying making the videos, it made sense to continue. So I continued to hone my craft whilst I was looking for my niche, and it took a further 6 years for us to get where we are now. I knew I loved travel, I knew I loved art, I knew I loved photography, I absolutely adored video, and I started doing a lot more of this during the pandemic. Not just one of them when I had time like before, but I mean absolutely all of them. This is how I avoided boredom during lockdown, and that's when it hit me. I'm not interested in drawing at all. It was how the art itself encapsulated a moment in time as a visual representation of part of a story. Whenever someone tells me a story or I read one, I imagine in my head what's going on. I can see it, and it's the drawing itself that allows me to output what's in my imagination as a hard copy, and it was that gave me immense pleasure. So drawing is my way of creating a hard copy of my imagination. Photography was great for a true story, a memory, and video, well, that's just photography on steroids. And I finally understand this, the videography and editing, that's where my passion lies. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you good luck finding yours. Whoa, hey, we haven't got onto equipment yet. Casey Neistat once said, Casey Neistat once said, hey, the best camera you can use is the one that you have available. Now this can mean two things. It can mean both A, the one you can afford, or B, the one you just happen to have around you at that exact moment in time. Maybe even your phone. You can have the best equipment money can buy, but if you have a terrible idea and you don't know what you are doing, the end result will be terrible. But if you have a good idea and not so good equipment, without an external mic for example, that is not very good at low light, no lighting for that matter, but an amazing idea and good skills, you can film at the right time of the day. You can record the audio on your phone. It's only once you have the skills and the abilities to make a good video do you need to worry about upgrading your equipment to get yourself to the next level. Audio. This is number one, because I can 100% guarantee that even though you can be forgiven for not having the best video, you will not be forgiven for having substandard audio, ever. Most cameras and phones will have a built-in microphone which is acceptable for close range recording. However, the moment you set them up far enough away for an interview so that it looks right, you are literally too far away for the microphone to be able to pick up good audio. It's not even a case of the microphone is not good enough, it's just too far away. Yes, you can get those external mics with the kitten to dampen the wind noise. Those are baby shotgun mics. Yes, they can record a longer range, but they're also directional, so you won't be able to pick up any sound from the left or the right of the camera as well as you can directly in front. There are pros and cons. I, for example, currently have a condenser mic, and I use it for podcasts, voiceover work, and sometimes I use it when I'm doing screen capture. And the rest of the time I use a hybrid lapel mic, which is basically a baby condenser mic. I use exactly the same way as a lower quality lapel mic, and it even has its own power supply. I do want a shotgun mic, I just don't need it right now, but it will be my next purchase. Now onto the camera. If you're just getting started and you can get your hands on a second-hand DSLR that's got an external audio jack, I wouldn't even go as far as to say get something with a full-frame sensor, because if you don't know what it is, you don't need it. So get yourself a decent DSLR, and now because we've got these new mirrorless ones coming out, which is basically the same as a DSLR but without the mirror inside, it's making the DSLRs really cheap, so just go out and get one. When you start using a real camera as opposed to a smartphone, which, let's face it, it does everything for you. Not necessarily that well, but it does everything for you. This is when you're going to start learning about things like ISO, aperture, shutter speed, and frame rate. Now I'm going to be making videos on these topics, so maybe this is a good time for me to say subscribe and click the bell button, and as soon as I've created these videos you'll be notified. Now I wouldn't waste too much money on one of those expensive tripods, you know, the ones with those fancy fluid heads, because at the very beginning it's probably just going to be you and you're going to have that tripod pointed at your head, and when you do need to do those fluid shots, you can hold the camera in your arms and you can use your neck, you can use the strap around the camera around your neck and your hands to get those gliding shots for nothing. And then of course, after you've bought the other bits and bobs you need as you go along, then you can start worrying about the fancy tripod. So let's get on to lighting. And I think the best advice I was ever given about lighting is that synthetic lighting, regardless of how expensive it is, regardless of the functionality, they are all designed to do the same thing, and that is to replicate natural light. There's nothing better than the real thing, and it's free. So yeah, at the beginning I would take photographs during specific times of the day. They're known as the golden hours. If you want to know more about them, you can Google them, you can look them up on YouTube. These are basically the appropriate times of the day where the light is bright enough, but at the same time it's not too harsh. Now later on you're going to learn about diffusion. You're going to be able to diffuse that light. I've diffused that light with baking paper, I've used shower curtains. Eventually you're going to have to go out and get yourself some decent lighting, because you cannot control natural light. In actual fact, today, because I've recently moved, I don't have my lighting with me. You might find that the lighting from the beginning of the video towards the end of the video is different, and that's because we're relying on so much of the natural light. Under perfect conditions where you can control that light, you can roll down the blinds. For a YouTube video, we don't necessarily have to do that, but this is just something I wanted to explain. And later on, when I do a video about lighting, we will go through all of that. Don't forget to subscribe. For audio and video editing, I use the Adobe CS Suite. I like the fact that everything you need is in one package. Different bits of software, but it's all in one suite. For the audio, I use something called Audio Audition, and I usually do all of my audio first at the same time. Get the levels all the same. If there's some background noise, get rid of it. And considering that audio is the most important thing, because if you don't get it right, you will turn your customers off, I concentrate and tend to spend a bit of time on it. And then for the video editing, I use something called proxies, which means I can use lower res versions of my video to do the editing, so it's not heavy on the processing power of the machine. Also means you can get away with doing this in the middle of nowhere on a laptop. In actual fact, my laptop is quite powerful, so I spend most of my time using a laptop which is plugged into a television. And then when it comes to rendering it out, because the rendering takes up a lot of processing power, I usually put it into a queue using the encoder, and when I finish work for the day, I press the play button and it will render everything whilst I'm watching TV or relaxing. That way I don't end up with the rendering slowing my computer down and stopping me doing important work, which is paying the bills. The next thing you need to buy is a decent headset. Now what I mean by decent is, do not go out and buy the most expensive modern day equivalent of Beats. Can you see I'm getting old now? I don't even know what the latest brand name is. But don't go out and buy the most expensive headset with the bass enhancement, because if you do, what you will end up listening to during your editing will not be the same as your viewer. So get yourself a basic headset to make sure you're hearing the same as everybody else, and then you can use that when you are fixing your audio and when you're doing your editing, and more likely what you hear is what your customer is going to hear. Now, if it's too late because you've already gone out and bought these amazing headphones, then what I suggest you do is switch the bass enhancement off to make sure that what you're hearing is what everybody else hears, and you won't be disappointed. So in conclusion, stop watching YouTube videos on how to make a YouTube channel and actually start. And then you can start watching YouTube videos on audio, videography, lighting, video editing, and color correction. Well, I hope you found that of interest. Thank you for listening.